To start the discussion for Veeam overview, the first speaker started his career in software development and project management before working in the data center space for vendors such as NetApp, EMC, Dell, and Lenovo. As the territory manager for Veeam Software, his primary focus is to grow the Philippine market by nurturing close relationship with our key customer and channel partners. To present the modern data protection, may I call on Mr. Brian Beronilla, the Territory Manager for Veeam Philippines.
So good morning, everybody. Thank you very much for joining us in today's session. My presentation will be all about the modern data protection that we will be talking about for the entirety of this session today. So my name is Brian. I'm from Veeam Software and I'm the territory manager. So ako po yung kinakausap ninyo if you have any questions about Veeam Software, if you have any inquiries, if you have any requests, whether big or small, yan po yung role ko. And my goal is very simple. It's to be able to help customers protect their infra, protect their data, and therefore protect their business. So I just start off with this particular slide. I won't even read about it. Everybody knows how important data is in our everyday lives as compared to 5 years ago, 10 years ago. Pag meron kang even sa bahay, di ba? Pag may hindi ka maalalang phone number, nakakainis. No? It's very critical, and especially in business, if you can't find a certain email, if you can't find a certain document, kung may nawawalang data entries in the database, it can mean a small problem or it can mean disaster. And our purpose in life, pagdating sa Veeam and pagdating sa ating partner na si Quantum, is to be able to help you protect your data. Legacy backup not meeting your business needs. No? Dati may tinatawag tayong legacy backup or yung sinasabi ng iba na parang just back it up. Yung regular backup, standard backup, yung pinaka-murang backup. And before, it was enough. But nowadays, we have several different kinds of customers. The first one is yung binabanggit nga natin who has this particular backup na legacy. And there are other customers who don't even have a backup, who will actually do a manual copy as a form of a backup, or who will bank on other technologies such as no single point of failure and redundancy across all their infrastructure points as their backup strategy. And as we are finding out, hindi na po talaga siya able to keep up with the growing needs of modern life. No? So ngayon po is we have to be able to protect ourselves from so many different things. And our hope is that we share today some of our key technology points and to translate those to you as benefits para po sa inyo in order to accelerate and help you out with your data protection strategy. Veeam in terms of numbers, so we're based in Columbus, Ohio. We have all these numbers on the board, but while it's still loading up, I'd like to focus on the numbers below. This is our NPS index or our Net Promoter Score, which shows us in the 75 percentile. So if you can see here, the industry average is 21, and then yung mga kilalang-kilala po natin na Amazon and Netflix are in the 60s. The NPS measures customer happiness. So we do have a lot of customers who are very happy with the products that we provide, with the solution that we give them, and with the service that we provide them. We are a clear market leader when it comes to backup and data protection. We have here Gartner, Forrester, and IDC, and I will be focusing more on the two names that we are more familiar with. So pagdating po sa Gartner, we have been named again sa Magic Quadrant as a leader for the 5th time in the last 5 iterations. And as you can clearly see, we are still number 1 in terms of the ability to execute. No? This ability to execute means we are number one in terms of providing customers with the actual solution that they are looking for. And we are very much proud of this. And we are very confident to continue to lead yung Magic Quadrant natin in the foreseeable future. In terms of IDC, as you can see here, the numbers from the second half of last year, and we are firmly in the number two spot in terms of the actual numbers. But the more important thing that I'd want to point out is yung trends. So kung napansin niyo yung percentage in terms of sequential growth and year-over-year growth. You can see here, very much so, the trend is customers are slowly but surely trusting Veeam more in terms of their backup software. Our vision is very simple. We want to be the most trusted provider para po sa inyo for backup, recovery, and data management. That will lead towards modern data protection. So we're not only about backup, we are also about recovery. We have to be able to ensure that your backup is recoverable, and then eventually taking a look at the overall data management, the ability for you to access your data na baka dati na-delete nyo na and you want to be able to put it back in, or if you want to be able to have a copy of your data in many different places. And my last two slides, our core focus is really modern data protection. And when we talk about modern data protection, we talk about not only backup and recovery, which is the core function of modern data protection, but also all these other use cases, such as monitoring and analytics, the ability for you to find out what's really happening sa infrastructure ninyo when it comes to backup, how many failed backups, how many successful, how long it took, and so on. Disaster recovery orchestration, typically a next phase whenever we talk about backup. So after you do your backup strategy and put it in place, yung disaster recovery orchestration allows you now to take a look at a plan on what you want to do with your DR strategy. Data security, of course, ensuring that everything is secure end to end. Data reuse, the ability for you to be able to use a backup file or a copy of your backup file, your data inside that, and use it for all other things, maybe reporting, maybe testing, and so on and so forth. And lastly, cloud mobility, the ability for you to leverage on the different types of clouds that we have right now, and maybe back up going to that cloud, back up from that cloud, or something in between. And our definition of modern data protection is to provide you an avenue to leverage all these use cases for your data depending on where it is. Dati, we only had one data center and that will be in one location and that's where all our data is, and it was a lot easier. Now our data may be in one data center, it can be in a secondary data center, it can be in one public cloud, it can be in multiple public clouds. And our offering allows you to take a look at it as a holistic picture. And kami po ni Veeam, we have partnered with Quantum because Quantum now provides us the second facet of that picture. We provide the how, Quantum provides the where you back up your data. Where do you put your backup files? And how do you securely put it there in a timely fashion? And I do hope that you stay around and stick around for the rest of our speakers. Magagaling po lahat yan. Diyos ko. Pagkasama ko po sa kapihan yan, hindi po ako makainom ng kape. So please do stick around. They will be tackling the technologies for both Veeam and Quantum. And I do hope that you have a great remaining session with us.
We will proceed to the second speaker. Our second speaker is a system engineer at Veeam Software. He is responsible in driving awareness, enablement, and growth within the partner and alliance ecosystem. He brings with him strong technical expertise in data protection, virtualization, cloud computing, server and storage, and having been in the IT industry for more than 18 years, in his current role, Jerome works with key customers, partner, and assists them in their journey to modern data protection. To present the Veeam Availability Suite for modern protection, may I call on Mr. Jerome Marino, the System Engineer for Veeam Philippines.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for taking the time to attend this session. And we hope that you will have a lot of key takeaways with regards to Veeam Availability Suite. And then later on, sa presentation naman ni CJ on the quantum, no, on how Veeam and quantum works together. Okay. So again, my name is Jerome Marino, Systems Engineer of Veeam. Okay. So let's start. Okay. So here's my agenda for today. First, I'll discuss the modern backup and data protection challenges, the 3-2-1-1-0 rule. Okay, our main suite or software suite, we call it our Veeam Availability Suite. Okay, the partnership and integration of Veeam and Quantum. And then lastly, I'll discuss why Veeam over our competitors. Okay. So as you may probably observe, the importance of data has grown to drive every aspect of the digital business. No? As mentioned kanina by our territory manager, Mr. Brian Veronilla, he mentioned that data really is the lifeblood of every company. So that's why it's really important to have a backup and recovery in place. Okay? So disasters happen all the time. Okay. So as you may probably know, Philippines belong to the Pacific Ring of Fire. That's why we are very prone to experience earthquakes. No? And due to climate change, storms and floods are already been part of our lives. Okay. Accidental fire could also occur, and attack from the inside is also a possibility. That's why it's really important to have a backup and disaster recovery solution. Okay. So if I may ask you, how do you mitigate and eliminate the impact of this catastrophic disaster? Data is critical, data is sprawling, and then data is growing. No? So based on the study, okay, conducted by us, no, the size of the digital universe is at least doubling every 2 years. No? So even in our personal lives, no, I think most of you yan, nag-save kayo ng mga videos, no, yung mga some sort of movies, series, no, mga pictures of your kids, of your wife, of your family. So it keeps on growing. No? Not only that, the importance of also of our data, no, especially in our company, no. So dapat we maintain the certain SLAs that we have defined, or the policy and regulations, such as the SLAs, RPOs, and RTOs. No? Okay. So of course, as data grows and changes, so the cost of managing it. No? Kanina I mentioned yung most common catastrophic disaster that would also occur. Probably some of you have heard or experienced yung mga ransomware attacks, malicious behaviors, accidental deletion of not so bright colleagues, something like that. So it's really important to have this concept, mastering the 3-2-1-1-0 rule. So the 3-2-1-1-0 rule, okay, this is an approach to help us answer two important questions. So how many backup files should we have, and where should we store it? Okay, so the 3-2-1 rule became a popular concept thanks to Peter Krog. Okay, si Peter Krog, he is the well-known photographer, and once said that there are two types of people. No? One that already experienced yung storage failure, and then one that will experience that in the future. Okay, so to discuss more about the 3-2-1-1-0 rule, so meaning to say three, so you must have three different copies of your data. One is production, and then the other two are backup copies. Okay, and then two, meaning to say you must have at least or store it to two different type of media. No, it can be on a disk or it can be on tape. Okay, and then one copy should be offsite. No, okay, and then with Veeam, we added a 1 and 0. One of which should be offline or air gap. Okay, or immutable. Okay, and then of course 0, meaning to say there should be no errors in terms of backup and of course testing and recoverability verification. Okay, so every admin should have a backup. Okay, so if I may ask you, what are you achieving with the 32110? Does it have anything to do with recovery? Does it say anything about how long restore will it take? Okay. Does it say anything about where to restore to? And does it say anything about the order in which to restore? Okay, you don't need to answer, but probably kindly ask yourself. No? Next, for over a decade, Veeam has been a leading provider of backup, recovery, and replication solutions. No? Uh, FYI, so Veeam was founded in year 2006, okay? And then we released our first backup solution after 2 years in 2008, focusing on VMware vSphere, okay? But as time goes by, so we are not only offering backup solution for VMware hypervisor, so we also support now multiple hypervisors. Okay, not only that, we also support backing up physical servers along with the public cloud IaaS offering, yung mga Azure VMs, AWS EC2 instances, and so on. No? Not only that, we also provide backup and recovery solution for software as a service based workloads like Office 365. Okay, so in a nutshell, Veeam offers broad data management and visibility and control capabilities for your entire environment. Okay? So in fact, we have continuously been deepening and expanding our portfolio of backup solutions. So as you can see on the upper left, these are the cloud hyperscalers that we support. There's AWS, IBM, Azure, GCP for Google, and of course, if you're using VMware, so we have a strong integration with them. Next is we have for Office 365, okay, backing up of databases, the SQL, Oracle, okay, Active Directory. Of course, you have also seen the rise of using Kubernetes containers, right? So in terms of hypervisors, so we support VMware, Hyper-V, as well as Nutanix. And then for physical workloads, we do support Windows, Linux environment, AIX, okay, as well as Oracle Solaris and even the NAS servers. No? So again, and as what Brian and I discussed, so Veeam still focuses on modern data protection. This isn't just backup and recovery, but we also provide for cloud mobility, monitoring and analytics, orchestration and automation, as well as governance and compliance. Okay. Okay. So the core of Veeam platform is certainly backup and replication, but there is a common set of modern data protection capabilities that includes all the different infrastructure types. No, yun nga, from physical to virtual environment, going to the cloud, and even software as a service offering. Another advantage of Veeam is our solution is a software defined. So what do I mean by software defined? So we can work with any hardware platform from the physical, from the x86 server to the likes of Quantum, okay, that we use to back up our backup files. Okay, we also give you the flexibility to choose whatever environment you want to have. Kung gusto mo purely on-prem deployment, then we can provide that. If you want to have a hybrid, yes, we can also support that kind of environment. And then lastly, if you want to move everything to the cloud. So with Veeam, we have our solution that is cloud native to AWS, Azure, as well as GCP. Okay, because we believe that there's no one size fits all. No, so every customer is a unique requirement. So moving on, so any app, any data, any cloud. So we have our software suite solution, which is our Veeam Availability Suite. Okay, Veeam Availability Suite comprises of two major products, which are Veeam Backup and Replication Server, which is the heart or the central management in configuring your backup and replication solution. Okay. On the right side, we have our Veeam ONE. Veeam ONE is our monitoring tool that gives you a single pane of glass to check your environment from the utilization, the health, the efficiency, gives you the monitoring on how to check or to see if magkakaroon ba ng kung may mga misconfiguration issue. So bago pa siya maging problema, and there's a corresponding solution na, no, that will provide to you. Okay? So just like what I've said, with Veeam, we support multiple hypervisors. So probably some of you would ask, so paano kung may yung ibang virtualization ko or ibang VMs ko running on unsupported hypervisor? So in that case, our treatment will be, we are going to install an agent. No? So an agent on each VMs that are not running on the supported hypervisors. Okay. On the physical servers, as I've said, so we do support Veeam Agent. Okay. For Microsoft Windows, we also have Veeam Agent for Linux. Okay. So not only that, we also support backing up of workstations and then the cloud workloads. Okay. Moving on. So for the major core components of our Veeam backup and replication solution, first is we have our Veeam backup server. So Veeam backup server, it is the one who do the coordination po, no? Yung backup, replication, recovery verification, and restore tasks. So dito ka rin mag-set ng mga scheduling, controls, and of course, resource allocation. So not only that, kung may mga i-deploy ka or servers that you want to back up, dito mo rin siya i-add. So setting of inventories and so on. Okay? Please take note that Veeam Backup and Replication Server can run inside a virtual machine or in a physical server. Okay? Veeam Backup Replication Server runs on top of a Windows OS. Okay, so we recommend to use a Windows 2012 and up versions. Okay, so next is we have our Veeam backup proxy server. So proxy, it is the one who handles the retrieval of our source o yung mga targeted nating iba-backup na mga workloads. When I say workloads, it can be a virtual machine, it can be a physical machine, it can be a cloud VMs, or it can even a NAS file servers. No? So in addition, Veeam Backup Proxy Server do the compression and deduplication as well as encryption. So it is the one who handles the communication between the source and then the destination, which leads to my next discussion, which is Veeam Backup Repository Server. So Veeam Backup Repository Server, ito po yung ating destination, no, for our backup files. So repository, so we can use that as per VM or per job location. So it also do a decompression, okay, of our Veeam backup and repository. So Veeam backup and repository, we have three types po, no, to use for as a destination. One is you install Windows or Linux server, and then you format it using REFS for Windows and then XFS file system for Linux environment. Okay. Next is you can use an appliance. Okay. Later on, CJ will discuss more about the options of the targeted repository that we can use. Okay. And then lastly, we can also use a NAS as the destination for our backups. Okay. So in terms of course, doing after doing the backup, of course, it's really important to know what are the restore options that we have. Okay. So first, I would like to highlight that for Veeam backup and replication, it provides the full VM recovery. So with full VM recovery, let's say we're going to restore a virtual machine po of VMware. So you can back up the full VM that comprises of .vmpk for the disk file, .vmx for the configuration file, .vmsd, vmsn, and so on. So you can create a full VM backup of that. Okay. Next is we have our instant VM recovery. So with instant VM recovery, it enables you to instantly start a VM directly from a backup file. Okay, so let's say it is running on a quantum repositories destination, pwede na natin siya, sir or ma'am, i-run in your environment, no? And then when the time comes that you would like to run it 100% in production, then may option po, no, to migrate it from your backup repository going to your production environment. So we can do that in minutes. Okay. So not only doing an instant VM recovery for the full VM, we can also do instant VM disk recovery. So let's say meron ka lang mga specific disks that you would like to restore, we also have that kind of option. Okay. Next, for the guest files, meaning to say on the application level, we can do restoration. No? Let's say guest file restoration for your SQL Server, for your Oracle, for your Active Directory, Exchange, so those applications. No? And then lastly, we have the capability to do direct restore to the cloud. No? Direct restore to AWS as well as to Azure and then later on to GCP. Okay, so we have those capabilities for you to have a on-prem setup, a hybrid on-prem and cloud, or even 100% on the cloud. Okay. Next, just to give you a bird's eye view of the Veeam Backup and Replication architecture. So again, the major components are Veeam Backup and Replication Server. We have the backup proxy that handles the compression and dedupe communication between the source and target. And then lastly is we have our backup repository server. So destination for our backups. Okay. As you can see on the left side, we support these multiple hypervisors, VMware, Hyper-V, Nutanix. Okay. And then we have our Veeam backup server that handles the backup replication configuration. Then we have the proxy, and then going to the repository. Okay. We also have the capability to do backup to tape. No? So again, to meet the 3-2-1 rule, you must have 3 copies of your data. 2 must be stored on 2 different media. So 1 in your storage and then 1 to tape. No? Okay? And then sabi nga rin doon, you must have at least 1 copy offsite. No? So in this example, so we can do a backup copy job so that it will be moved to site 2. So again, we're not only backing up virtual machines, but also yung mga physical servers. No? Physical for Windows and Linux environment. Okay, same thing for the NAS file servers. Okay. Next is we have another component of our Veeam Availability Suite. So again, there's Veeam Backup and Replication Server. And then this one, we have our Veeam ONE monitoring tool. Okay, so as it says, so Veeam ONE provides a clear and unified visibility and control for your environment. Okay, so Veeam ONE delivers deep, intelligent monitoring, reporting, and automation through interactive tools and intelligent learning, identifying and resolving real customer problems before they become an issue. Okay, on the left side, you will see that we support, of course, Veeam Backup and Replication, Veeam agents for physical, and for VMs running on unsupported hypervisor. We support VMware vSphere, Cloud Director, Hyper-V, as well as Nutanix Acropolis hypervisor. Okay, on the right side, you will see yung capabilities niya. So again, 24/7, real-time monitoring and alerting, resource optimization, capability to do capacity planning. So it will give you if kung may mapupuno ng resources, no, in terms of compute and storage capacity, ability to do forecasting, which is very important. It also has a capability to do chargeback. No? So let's say you are uh, providing a parang managed services for the different departments in your company. So yan, you can build them based on their usage. And then if wala naman kayong ganong klaseng requirement, let's say you may still use that report as a showback. No? So what do I mean by that? So showback meaning to say, let's say mapupuno na yung resources, you can justify it to the management that you need an additional capacity. It's because these are the current utilization, no? Utilization of each department. Okay. And then lastly, intelligent diagnostic and automation. No? So remember the orchestration and automation required for our digital transformation. Lastly, Veeam ONE can be installed inside a virtual machine or a physical server. So it also runs on top of a Windows operating system. Next, I would like to highlight that early this year, so to be exact, last February 26, we released our version 11 that provides these five major capabilities. No? So actually, there's a lot, but I would like lang to highlight these five. Okay. So first, I would like to start with continuous data protection. So yung continuous data protection po, it is a technology that helps you protect mission-critical VMware virtual machines that requires lower RTOs. No? With continuous data protection, this is a purpose-built for VMware virtual machines. No? So it provides, let's say if meron kang requirement that requires data loss for seconds or minutes, okay, so then we can offer for continuous data protection. Okay, please take note, there's no additional cost for this feature. It's already bundled in our software. Okay, so next is we have our hardened Linux repository. So this is to address no yung mga ransomware attacks, malicious behaviors, attacks from inside from the organization. So we position hardened Linux repository. Okay, with hardened Linux repository, as it names entail it, Linux meaning to say running siya on Linux environment. So on Linux, let's say we format it as an XFS file system. So we can use that as a repository of our backups. Now, we can also define, let's say, for 6 months or even for a year, for example, walang pwedeng mag-alter or mag-delete ng any files on that repository. Okay? So, that's what a hardened Linux repository can do. Okay? So next is we have our, again, to expand our support and interoperability with AWS and Azure. So we do now support backing up and moving backup files from, let's say, S3 going to Glacier for a much cheaper object storage, and then from Azure Blob Storage to Archive. Okay. So next, we have also expanded our instant recovery. So previously, we do support instant VM recovery, and now we added instant VM recovery for your SQL and Oracle databases. So instant recovery for your database in minutes. Okay. And then lastly, improvement on our Veeam powered backup as a service and VR as a service. Okay. Next, in terms of licensing, no? So how do we license ba our product? Okay? So at Veeam, so we license our Veeam Availability Suite, okay, uh, by Veeam Universal License. So kanina I mentioned that we give you customers the flexibility to choose if you want to run it on-prem, you want it to run hybrid, or even run 100% to the cloud, then you don't need to acquire or to purchase an additional license. So we have this Veeam Universal License, which is very portable and can move from on-prem to hybrid or even to 100% to the cloud. Okay. So with Veeam Universal License, a license per number of workloads. Okay. Okay. So it can be per VM, running on VMware, Hyper-V, or Nutanix. For cloud IaaS, okay, per number of cloud instances. So that is considered as one license. For file shares or for NAS that you want to back up, so we license it per 500 GB. Okay? So since this is a universal license, pwede mong i-move to a different, not only site, but type of workloads. Let's say, hindi mo na kailangang i-backup yung mga file shares mo. Then, let's say you have 500 GB, then pwede mong i-move yun, no? For your additional VM workloads or cloud workloads. Okay? Next, I would also like to highlight yung aming integration with Quantum. So Quantum and Veeam deliver a scalable solution to maximize data storage efficiency and recovery. So in my deck, so I highlighted excuse me, that Quantum has this object storage, appliance, scalar, and then DXI backup appliance that we can use to store our backups. So later on, CJ from Quantum will discuss it in more detail. Okay. And then lastly, I would like to highlight these three words on why Veeam. Okay, simple, flexible, and reliable. So Veeam Vision remains to be the most trusted provider of backup solutions that enables cloud data management. Our solution is very simple to install and configure. It's very flexible, so we can work with any hardware platform, and our solution just simply works. No? So as mentioned by Brian earlier, so in terms of NPS index, no, so we have a lots of happy customers, and that would recommend our solution to their friends and other colleagues, no, or even some of their peers. Okay. So with that, thank you so much. I do hope that you learned a lot from this session. And now I'll pass it now to our speaker. So thank you, everyone.
Okay, so a quick introduction for our next speaker. His career started with system administration and project management in the private sector. He spent most of his entire career with telecommunication and IT industry and has specialized in storage, server, data protection, and disaster recovery. He is now the solution architect for Quantum Philippines. And to talk more about solid data protection for the modern data center, let us welcome Mr. Christian Villabrosa of Quantum Philippines.
Okay, let me start. So again, my name is Christian Villabrosa. You can call me CJ. I'm the Solutions Engineering Manager for Quantum Philippines. And my agenda for this morning, so I'll introduce to you Quantum and what we do and what solutions we can provide that can integrate with Veeam. So I'll start with the data protection portfolio. And part of those portfolio would be DXI. This is our deduplication appliance that can be presented as a storage to Veeam as well. And next would be our quantum tape libraries that Quantum started, was well known for this tape library solutions up to present. Then next would be our object storage. We call it active scale. So this would be a future-proof or a tapeless solution for customers that have a tapeless requirement for their long-term retention of backups. Then next would be our Quantum's integration with independent software vendors such as Veeam. And maybe I can show you uh, how we integrate our solutions with Veeam. Then lastly, some of our customer use cases together with Veeam. So to start, Quantum is already a 40-year storage specialist. And we have more than 100,000 deployments worldwide and a lot of strong intellectual property or patents, particularly in file systems and data lifecycle management. So part of that is also data protection. So a bit of history for Quantum. Quantum started in the 1980s providing hard disk devices. So before there was a Quantum hard disk. Then in the 1994, Quantum developed tape-based data protection. So it started with the standalone tape drives and the autoloaders, then later evolved into tape libraries that I would show you later. Then in 2002, up to present, Quantum has already developed disk-based data protection systems, high-performance storages, and multi-tier storage solutions. And as you can see on the map at the top, Quantum is present worldwide. So for Asia, our headquarters is in Singapore, but the main headquarters is in USA. So also, our engineering and research and development is in Sydney, Australia. So to start with the data protection portfolio from right to left, So Quantum DXI series are Quantum's deduplication storages. So this is our flagship storage for data protection. So it provides the deduplication as an optional feature. So basically, you can have options of Veeam performing the deduplication or DXI performs the deduplication of your data. So why the use of deduplication of DXI? So I'll explain on the following slides. Then in the middle, we still have our quantum scalar tape libraries. So since technology is continuously evolving, there are new use cases for our quantum tape libraries. And on the left, we have our active scale object storage. So we can consider this as a storage uh, for a cloud storage different to public cloud. So there are two types of cloud storages. So it can be public, such as AWS and Azure, or private cloud or on-premise object storage. So that's the area where ActiveScale falls. So it's on our private cloud object storage. So it can be located local to your data center or to any co-located data center. General use cases of enterprise backup and archive. Typically, if your production environment comprises of either or both of physical or virtual environments, and it utilizes a primary storage having features such as snapshots, creating of clones. So from those features, you can protect your data from seconds to days. But since primary storage are more expensive than the tier 2 or tier 3 storages such as DXI or the tape libraries for backup storages, uh, we can position the DXI for protecting your data from days to months, providing meeting your SLA or backup window, and also performing replication to another site if you have a DR site. Then protecting your data for longer or with longer long-term retention from probably months and up to years, or probably some customers keep their data infinitely. So as a value proposition, we position our scalar tape library since this is the most cost-effective storage for maintaining or preserving your data for longer retentions. And as a new use case, no, um, it also provides an air gap feature as protection from ransomware, since any data written on tape is considered offline. So I'll start with the DXI series. So as mentioned earlier, our DXI series is our deduplication storage. So we have three models for the DXI. So from the left, we have our DXI V series. So you can consider this as the virtual edition of the DXI, wherein DXI can be installed as a software and installed in a VM. But basically, when you install DXI V series as a VM, it would utilize whatever storage your VM infrastructure is using. And this is ideal for customers that have or limited storage capacities, and if you want to leverage or you have standards of utilizing a single storage for your production and backups. So it has two models, the V2000 and the V4000. Uh, Capacities can start from 1 terabyte to 24 terabytes of dedupe usable capacity. So effectively, you can write more data because of the deduplication feature. Then in the middle, we have our 4800. It starts from 8 to 315 terabytes of dedupe usable capacity. So effectively, for the DXI 4800, you can store up to 3.4 petabytes of effective capacity. and performance can be up to 14 terabytes per hour. So that would be an aggregate of concurrent backups and restores. And lastly, on the right, we have our DXI 9000. It starts, this is our enterprise model. So it starts at 51 terabytes and can scale up to 1 petabyte of usable dedupe capacity. And effectively, you can store up to 20 petabytes of effective capacity. In terms of performance, it can go up to 35 terabytes per hour. So since because this our DXI has the deduplication feature, we normally pin conservatively the reduction, deduplication, and compression ratio to 20 is to 1. But basically, the deduplication or reduction ratio differs to whatever data type we are protecting, whether it's a file, an email, a database, or any other type of data, especially VMs. So the reduction ratio differs for every data type. Uh, this slide shows that DXI is agnostic to whatever backup application you are using. And if you plan on moving or considering Veeam, it would be a strong partnership with Veeam to complement and Quantum to complement that as the storage repository. So as you can see at the bottom, Veeam, pay no attention that Veeam is at the bottom because the document was arranged alphabetically. But I highlighted Veeam, wherein we support Veeam as the backup software, and DXI can provide the storage repository for your backups. And the way we present the storage to Veeam, we have different options. So listed the columns at the top, we can present or provision the DXI storage to Veeam as a NAS share, whether it's CIFS for Windows or NFS for Unix or Linux. Then we can also provision the storage as a VTL, or we call virtual tape library. So similar to physical servers that we are moving into a virtualized environment and converting it as a VM. Think of it that DXI can emulate a physical tape library. So Veeam's uh, conception is DXI is a tape library, but realistically, you're writing your data to disk if you're using DXI. Then on the last column, you see the VDMS. So VDMS or Veeam Data Mover Service. It's a proprietary protocol of Veeam that we also support. So what makes DXI different? Um, it provides fast ingest or backups and restores. It's capacity on demand, so it's easy to scale. You can start small and grow as capacity requirements is needed. And also, it is flexible in terms of how we can provision the DXI storage to the Veeam backup software that I discussed earlier. And it has also the advanced system analytics. So basically, this is how we can monitor the system and provide you reports. Then we also have, as an optional feature, we have in terms of data security, um, we can, as an optional feature, we can add in the self-encrypting drives for the encryption feature. So since Veeam also has the encryption feature on a software level, you can also consider DXI providing the encryption on the hardware level, because the hard disks are the ones encrypted. Then as a result, data written on the disk in the disk is also encrypted. So the data at rest is encrypted. Uh, when you use also the self-encrypting drive, so let's say you perform replication to another DXI in a remote site, the data in flight is also encrypted. Of course, the unique integration with Veeam and its features. So the advanced system analytics that I mentioned earlier, we call it the DART or DXI Advanced Reporting Tool. It can monitor the replication from a DXI pair. It can measure also the data reduction, the duplication, and compression. It can also monitor the performance of the system or the DXI. It can also provide chargeback reporting, similar to what Jerome mentioned earlier, that Veeam can also provide the chargeback reporting. And another unique feature is we call bandwidth throttling. So let's say you have two sites for your company and you're performing replication as well for your primary storage, and you want to take priority with it. So we can throttle down or make the replication of the DXI slower to give priority to your primary storage replication. And if there would be lesser bandwidth usage at a time, we can throttle up or make the DXI replication faster. Another feature is we can present up to 6 years of historical data of the DXI. And lastly, we can provide also capacity trending. So if you have plans in the near future to add more capacity on DXI, we can create or generate reports for the capacity trending. Another key differentiator for Quantum DXI. So DXI has the continuous replication. So what makes it unique? So pay attention to the first rectangular box at the top. So other backup deduplication appliances, normally backup jobs has to finish before replication has to start, and acknowledgement has to be received by the source backup appliance before new data is sent to the uh, backup appliance target. But for DXI, so what makes it unique? While backup is still running, we can already start the replication. So as a result, we minimize the risk window whereby your data on the remote site is not yet updated. So for a bit of any visual representation on how DXI replicates to another DXI, for example, for this presentation, where Veeam is backing up multiple VMs. So while backup is still running, replication is has already started. So once replication has finished, data can already be scanned by Veeam on the remote site. Uh, Replication use cases for DXI. First would be DXI to any DXI. So it can be, the source can be a virtual to a physical backup appliance, such as the V series going to a 4800 or a 9000, or vice versa. It can be from a small DXI to a bigger DXI model. And it can also perform multiple targets from one to one or one to two or peer to peer. It can also have an option of multiple sources from many to one or many to many. So coming soon, DXI would have a new feature we call secure snapshots. This is a protection from ransomware. So the way it works, snapshots or shares. So basically, the share is the storage provision to the Veeam backup software. Typically, the shares or the partitions are taken and placed, we generate a snapshot of the shares and place it in a non-accessible location. Retentions can also be set on the snapshots and will be automatically deleted once it is expired. So from the screenshot here, we can also set the retention of the snapshots. So let's say a ransomware attack happens and this production share of the DXI has been compromised, for example, we can restore from a snapshot that's not accessible over the network, and bring up the production share from the snapshot. So this is coming soon, probably late Q3 or Q4 of 2021. So a bit of the duplication 101. So let's consider a person sending an email with a PowerPoint attachment to 5 recipients. So there would be 5 identical PowerPoints stored in on different computers. Then let's say out of the 5 recipients, one of the recipients edited the PowerPoint to probably add his name or edit some of the slides. Then imagine a person changed the file, and in total we have 6 PowerPoint copies on different locations. So for if we do a standard backup without the deduplication, we run full backups, we have to backup 6 copies of each PowerPoint. So it would consume more capacity on your storage. But with deduplication, we just backup 1 copy of the PowerPoint that is identical or common, then write to storage, or back up the files or the data or the blocks that have changed from the PowerPoint files that were edited. So that's basically the deduplication, what deduplication does. So for the next slide, I'll explain to you the 2 types. So the first type is fixed block deduplication, and the second one is variable length deduplication. So to share with you, variable length deduplication is a patent of Quantum. So Quantum has developed this deduplication technology. If you hear any other deduplication vendors offering storages with deduplication, I mean, uh, they adapted the variable length deduplication of Quantum because they see the value in it. So we start with the fixed block deduplication. So normally, this deduplication type is used by the independent software vendors such as Veeam or any other backup vendor software in the market. So basically, let's consider this first statement. So for checking of data uniqueness and commonality, we segment the whole statement into 4 fixed length character blocks. Then let's say another statement comes in. So it would compare with the other segments. So it would detect that all the blocks are different or new. So as a result, you would have 11 unique blocks that would be written to your storage. So let's use the same statements using the variable length deduplication. So difference would be variable length deduplication uses space as a boundary. So if you notice, uh, the blocks differ in sizes. So let's say the second statement comes in to compare for uniqueness. It would detect that the first 4 blocks are the only ones unique. So as a result, you would see 6 unique blocks that would be written to your storage. So from here, you would see the big difference between the fixed versus the variable block. So to give you a better picture, let's say for an email backup, as the number of backup iterations increases, we would see the disk savings between the variable length and the fixed block. So for 100 TB of your data that needs to be protected, so basically we can save, or you can store the 100 TB into a 10 TB of storage using variable length deduplication versus fixed block on the 18th iteration. Uh, same with the 100 TB, it would require more or less 27 TB of storage. So from here, you can see about 3 times better of disk savings using variable length used by DXI. So I'll jump to the scalar tape library. So for you to appreciate the features and how it can complement with Veeam, I'll discuss that probably on my following slides. So for the meantime, let's start with the tape libraries. So our scalar tape libraries comes in three models. i3, the entry level, i6, the mid range, and i6000 as the enterprise model. So the i3 and the i6 are modular, so you can start small. So for our scalar i3, it can go up to 400 slots and scales up to 24 drives. So you can start with one tape drive depending on your requirement. So for a single enclosure of an i3, it can have a maximum of three tape drives and 50 slots. Then for i6, it can scale up to 800 slots. So the slots are the ones are where you insert the tapes inside the library. And the scalar i6 can also scale up to 24 drives. So for a 6U enclosure of a scalar i6, you can have three tape drives and 100 slots. And i6, what makes it different? Since this is our enterprise class, this is already the rack type. So if you notice, you can see that the slots are quite large compared to the other two models in terms of slots and drives. Then in terms of features listed here on the left bottom of the screen is available across all the three models. So I'll just highlight some of the features here. Advanced reporting would provide hardware alerts for the whole tape library, as well as tape reports, such as how many times the tape has been mounted or used. And another key feature is partitioning. So let's say you have two backup softwares that you're utilizing in your company. You can present a single tape library to both backup softwares. And we just have to do the partitioning. So for example, you have 6 tape drives and probably 100 slots for the scalar i3, and you want to present the scalar i3 to do backup software. So first partition can have 50 slots and 3 drives presented to backup software 1. Then second partition can have 3 tape drives as well and 50 slots, and probably, for example, presented to Veeam. So that's the partitioning feature. While features at the middle, I'll highlight probably EDLM. So we call it Extended Data Life Management. So basically, this is an optional tape drive that we can include to analyze the health or the integrity of your tapes. So basically, if the the tape is already faulty, any data written on it will be considered lost. So as precautionary, we can provide EDLM as an optional feature to scan the tape's health or integrity. So it would be an automatic scanning of their tapes by creating policies inside the library. While the tapes are not used, we can scan the tapes. And as a proactive process, it will generate an alert to your administrator if a tape would be nearing a fault alert. So you have time to create a duplicate to a new or good tape. And another key feature, Active Vault. I have a separate slide for that. So by the way, the EDLM and Active Vault are available only for i6 and i6000. Then features here at the right are available only for the i6000. So probably highlight the dual robot. So it can have two robotic arms inside the library. So that's one unique feature for the i6000. And probably the HDEM, or high density expansion module. So basically, you can put more tapes inside the library. And this is the one I mentioned for the Active Vault. So Active Vault is actually it's a license, an optional license for the scalar tape libraries, whereby it is a protection from ransomware, wherein tapes can be exported or vaulted within or inside the library. So typically or normally when we do vault, we eject the tapes outside the library. But in this case, let's say this partition of the tape library is the one presented to Veeam. And this part of the partition doesn't have the license. So we apply the active vault license here. And if you need vaulting and you don't have a facility to maintain the tapes, we can automatically, the scalar tape library can automatically move the tapes to the active vault partition wherein it is secure and offline and it's no longer seen by the Veeam unless we we move the tapes back to the partition that is recognized by Veeam. So basically, that's the active vault feature of our scalar tape libraries. And next would be the LT generation or roadmap. So our tape libraries support LTO6 up until LTO9. So LTO9 was just released this year, and capacities for each generation are shown here, and capacity on the native, capacity, and compressed. So for LTO6 and LTO7, so the way it works in terms of backward compatibility, so for discussion, for example, you have an LTO7 drive. So it can read two versions down. So it can read LTO5 and LTO6 tapes as well as LTO7 tapes. But for LTO7 drives, it can only write uh, to tapes one generation down. So it can write to LTO6 tapes and LTO7 tapes. But for some whatever reason, LTO has uh, changed the technology starting at LTO 8 and 9. So for LTO 8 and 9, it can be only one version down for read and write. So for an LTO 8, it can only read and write to LTO 7 and LTO 8 tapes. And in terms of throughput for every drive, these are the throughputs for each drive for native and compressed throughputs for each LTO generation. I'll jump into ActiveScale. This is our object storage. So I mentioned earlier, this is Quantum's on-premise or private cloud storage. So normally, Jerome mentioned earlier that backup requirements differ to each company or different each customer. So if customers are looking into a local on-premise private cloud object storage, ActiveScale is a solution you can also consider. Because normally, if you back up to the cloud, such as public cloud, I mean, such as AWS and Azure, and if you need to perform restores back from public cloud to your local data center, it would require a lot of cost, especially when you do downloads from public cloud going back to your local data center. So public clouds provide premiums for downloading your data back to your data center. So as an alternative, ActiveScale can be an on-premise object storage cloud solution. So our ActiveScale is a tapeless solution for long-term backups. Can be utilized using an S3 protocol similar to public cloud object storages. In terms of features, it has versioning, replication, and it can provide also multi-tenancy. So it can also be configured as a single site storage for your backups. It can be done as a two-site storage for your backups, one active scale for each site performing replication, or a three geo configuration whereby a single data is striped across three data centers. So of course, each data center would have one active scale storage. Aside from backup and recovery, so it can be configured as a storage also for Veeam. Other use cases, as mentioned earlier, it can provide multi-tenancy. So for example, we have an active scale having 240 terabytes in capacity. So let's say we create a bucket, probably for example, 100 terabytes, and we configure that as a storage for Veeam for your long-term retention. Then, as multi-tenancy feature, let's say for advanced analytics, you have a requirement wherein you have a Hadoop system. So ActiveScale can also, we would create another bucket from the free space, for example, 140 terabytes, and provision to the Hadoop system. So you can use ActiveScale with different use cases other than backup and recovery. So in terms of active scale family, we have three models, the 100E3, the P100, the X100. So features across the three models are the same, are available across the three models. Difference would be on the scalability. So if you notice, capacity shown here, the raw capacity shown here are quite large for reasons that uh, data is continuously growing, and especially for long-term retention of backups, data keeps on just accumulating. So at least ActiveScale can provide the scalability in terms of capacity for customers that are looking into a looking into a tapeless archive. So I'll jump to the integration with Veeam. So, similar to what Jerome said earlier, Quantum also follows the global standard we call 3211 data protection. So, same as what Jerome said, the number three signifies you have to keep three copies of your data, one being the production copy and two copies as backup. The number two signifies you have to keep your data in two different types of media, one being on disk and second on tape. The first number one signifies one backup copy is offsite and online. So since DXI can perform replication and data is written on disk, data written on the remote DXI is considered offsite and online. And the last number one signifies one backup copy is securely offline and immutable. So when you say immutable, data cannot be altered since data written on tape is considered offline. So with Veeam's integration, Quantum Storages supports the integration with Veeam VDMS or Veeam Data Mover Service, starting at Veeam version 9.5 and also integrated with Veeam 10. And we also support the fast clone feature of Veeam, wherein we leverage on the synthetic full backups on Veeam 10. And as mentioned earlier by Jerome also, we also support the instant VM recovery. So DXI can be the storage wherein you can start up the VMs from the backups written in DXI. And Veeam can orchestrate powering up or moving your VM back to your production infrastructure from DXI. And also for the DXI also supports the continuous replication to meet SLAs or RTO, RPO, or your backup windows. So with Veeam's integration with Quantum, so we support the VDMS. So this diagram shows the typical setup for VMware or with Veeam and a storage. But with DXI's integration with Veeam, we are lessening the hops since the target Veeam Data Mover service is running inside the DXI already. So it's automatically installed and started inside DXI, giving us shorter backup windows, reduced network loads, and better deduplication or reduction rates. And we support IVMR or instant VM recovery, and of course synthetic full backups on DXI. And as mentioned earlier, we support the fast clone. So fast clone is a feature that helps create fast file copies and increases the speed of synthetic backups, and also it reduces disk space requirements on storage devices. And this shows the quantum stack that can integrate with Veeam. So normally Veeam does its thing. It has the policies and other features and performs the backups. And DXI would provide you the high performance backup storage and utilizing the variable length deduplication that I mentioned earlier, providing better deduplication or reduction. It can also give you the replication to another remote site with also the integration with VDMS. Then our scalar tape libraries as the offline air gap uh, protection from ransomware. And of course, you have a central management tool since you're just looking into the Veeam user interface, and it's our DXI is already controlled by Veeam. So here are some of the examples of the tests we done with Veeam and DXI 4800. So for this one, we tested 10 VMs for about 5 terabytes in size. So without the fast clone, it took the backup more than 5 hours to complete the 5 terabytes of 10 VMs. But with Veeam Fast Clone and DXI as the storage, it took only 21 minutes. So you can see 15 times faster for backups using Veeam Fast Clone and DXI as your storage. Another test we did is a file server virtual machine having almost 13 terabytes in capacity. It took about 27 hours without the fast clone. Then with the fast clone, it just took about 49 minutes. So you can see 33 times faster having fast clone and DXI as well. Lastly, another test we did is about 10 terabytes of a file server VM. It took about more than 16 hours to do without fast clone. With fast clone, it took about less than 20 minutes. So you can see 15 times faster. So also, TXI is a fully integrated solution with the Veeam UI or Veeam user interface. So Jerome also mentioned Veeam can configure backup repositories. So you can uh, easily see Quantum DXI as an option. We'll go to the customer case studies. So these are case studies with Veeam and DXI as the solution we provided to the customer. So this is Airbus Defense and Space. So this is a division of Airbus responsible for defense and aerospace products and services. The challenge they encountered was meeting the backup window, and they were using the VMware primary storage also as the backup repository. So with Quantum's strong integration with Veeam, Quantum proposed DXI with Veeam, backup and replication as the software, thus resolving their challenges and dramatically reduce the disk capacity for nearly 90%. Another use case is the Hawaii Department of Health. This is a state agency in Honolulu. So this with their transition to virtualize everything, they faced fast growing data and preserving it with longer retentions. So what Quantum and Veeam did was we helped them address the challenges that shortened the backup window and reduce disk usage with 1 year retention on disk. Then lastly, we have Advatech. So Advatech is a prime solutions integrator in United Kingdom. They provide managed services, network and IT management, and also backup as a service, as well as DR and business continuity. So as part of their services, they offered Veeam and Quantum as their complete backup solution stack providing capacity savings, and provides the 32110 data protection rule that Veeam and Quanto also follows.